Wearing ratty jackets from Stephen Barry's. Praying one day Big Red will win the NIT.
Ham is the water of meats.
Ham's the water of meats.
Ham is the water of meats.
Summer needs for
Ham is the
bacon.
water of meats. Ham is the water of meats. Ham is the water of meats.
Ham's the water of
We are
meats.
streaming live on Stibbs TV, so you can see our lovely faces as well. And hopefully he's not using up all of his bandwidth playing video games so that his feed doesn't start to crackle on us. But there he is in the upper right-hand corner playing his son right now. You know, there's actual basketball and actual hockey going on right now, but yet you have chosen to play video games again. Are you lost?
Okay.
Have you forgotten where we are in this world now?
We have a second TV down here.
Attaboy.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Yes.
All right.
For
We had
now.
a second TV down here. I forgot, as usual, I forgot that I was doing this interview today. And then I thought of it. So credit to me there. But I was in the middle of a grudge match against my son, and I didn't want to quit it. So I said, can we just do this on video so I can multitask? And Stibbs made it happen.
So how badly are you losing?
I'm only down by 10 now. And we have a new rule. What we do now is we have we pick random teams until you get two from the bubble, and you get to choose between the two in the bubble. So I ended up with the Heat, and he ended up with the Nuggets. And I'm down 12 right now in the third quarter, which that's respectable for me. I'm not unhappy.
Are you watching the Heat Raptors game on your other TV?
We were. Right now it's not on right at the moment, but we were, yes.
It's a good sign for you because the Heat came back from like a 20-point deficit at the end of the third into the fourth. So
That's good. That's good. And every time Tyler Hero makes a three, I sing Hero by Mariah Carey.
That's great, but these Heat aren't being the real Heat aren't being controlled by Jack. So that's probably why they're having a little more success.
Personally, I would have gone with Hero by Enrique Iglesias, but teach.
I can do that too. I can be your hero, baby.
See,
please,
perfect.
Thank you, Ravi. Next Tyler, I'll bust into it next Tyler Hero 3. Thank you.
As long as we don't do Hero by Chad Kroger.
I know that one too. And we know that a hero can find us, and not going to stand in the way.
I worked at Village Point Cinema when was that Spider-Man 2?
I believe so.
When Spider-Man 2 came out, and I had to hear that song 4 million times that summer.
Wasn't it a duo with like Josie Scott of the band Saliva, if I recall correctly?
It wasn't that bad a song. I actually like that one better than the other two you mentioned.
Oh, Enrique is definitely the king of those three songs.
Agreed.
Come on.
The Mariah Carey one they played. I remember, John, you probably remember this. They did all, you know how a big thing used to be like broadcast TV montages of Husker highlights.
Yes.
And after the 93 Orange Bowl, when Nebraska lost to Florida State on the Byron Bennett kick, I remember it. I think it was WOWT did an end of the year montage, like about the season, and they had Mariah Carey's Hero to it. And it was like this sort of bittersweet thing. And that song always sort of makes me tear up a little bit because of that.
That may have been
Tyler Hero
special. Ross, who just retired over the weekend.
I know. I saw that Sunday Sports Extra. I used to get so excited for Sunday Sports Extra at 10:30 on Sundays.
That's actually something that we have in common, Jack, because I didn't have cable growing up, so I didn't get to watch SportsCenter and stuff. So Sunday Sports Extra was my jam.
During football season, that was must-watch TV. I was never going to bed before, during most of the 90s, was never going to bed before that was on when I was in high school.
Although I got to say the Mariah Carey use on the montage is a weird flex.
Yes, it is.
It was 1993. Things were different.
Well, it was 1994, but yeah.
Okay.
January 94. January 94. All right, Jack Mitchell joining us from our sister station, KLIN. We're going to attempt to have quasi-serious conversation while he's playing video games.
I can do it.
Those who are not familiar here in Omaha, so there was a situation that developed over the weekend in Lincoln regarding the mask mandate. There is there's a billiards hall called Madsen's there in central Lincoln, which is a huge pool hall. They were having a tournament this weekend, big billiards tournament. And they got turned in for violating the mask mandate. and the general manager there has decided not to close. They were ordered to close. The health department said, you're closed. He said no, and now this is headed to legal action, at least as of this weekend. My question is, now obviously that this doesn't necessarily impact Omaha naturally, but I'm curious what it might mean for a Nebraska standpoint this fall, because there's still hope that there will be some fans allowed inside of facilities. But should this lawsuit be either successful or not successful, or wherever it goes from here, do you think it may hold at least some impact on the types of capacity scenarios that Nebraska is wanting to use should they play sports this fall?
No, I don't really think I don't think it'll affect that. I mean, I assume, and I don't know exactly what the lawsuit is going to, or the defense will look like by the Madsen's folks. Basically, they're probably either going to just say that the mask mandate and the social distancing are illegal or unconstitutional on their face, and then they'll probably also argue that they had an exception to them and that should have been enforced there because there's wide exceptions to the rule that they were doing that. But I don't really see that. I mean, I only see that coming into play where in situations where you've got businesses kind of actually just saying, hey, this doesn't apply to us, or this shouldn't be a rule, the masking. And when it comes to the university, at least, my guess is since they're already going to be very serious about that on campus, they probably will in sporting events too. So I don't know, unless I'm missing something, I really don't see it having a real huge impact. I think the bigger impact could be, other bars, other similar type businesses saying, wait, this guy's doing this, then we should be able to get away with doing it too. We're going to be able to put tables closer together. We can get more people in. We can, not enforce masks. That's probably the biggest implication of it. And then, of course, if somehow, which I don't necessarily think this will happen, but if somehow the court invalidated the rule so that it wasn't there. But again, all that would do is kind of loosen things up a little bit here. And I can't really see it would have a huge impact on the existence of football or other sports at the university.
Well, then let me ask you this, because obviously, whatever Nebraska decides to do, it's going to be done in conjunction with local authorities. We've talked about this in the past. But if Nebraska holds games, I'm guessing there's a more than 50-50 chance there's masks going to be required, because at least that's the way it's been in some of the other places that are going to allow fans. There's going to be masks required. If somebody wanted to fight that, if a fan wanted to fight that, could this have this lawsuit or this legal action? Could this have any recourse for them? Could they have the same recourse as Madsen?
I guess so, but here's the difference. Okay, it's a lot. It takes a lot of series of things to happen for that to be the case, John. Number one, somehow the bar would have to win, have to go forward with this, fight it, and win, and somehow, and it would depend what the basis was. But then that would be the case, is that the city rule is not legal for whatever reason, or the way that it's enforced isn't being legal. In the university's case, they would be doing it, I presume, willfully. They'd be making that rule. It wouldn't be the city or the county coming in and saying,
right,
all right, you've got to do this. And the university doesn't want to do it. So that'd be a different situation. So even if the mask rule was walked back because of some legal dealings, which I don't think it would be, I still think the university is going to be as aggressive as they can with masks. I would just be shocked if they wouldn't, from having talked to some of them. And I don't think that'll change.
Jack, what's the difference from a legal standpoint in terms of the city requiring masks as an issue of public health and safety and requiring, say, shoes in a restaurant in terms of as a point of public health and safety? Is there any difference?
Well, the mayor is basically justified here. That's a major justification that she's used. She said it's the same thing, and that's basically the reason why it shouldn't be a big deal. That's the argument. So that argument is certainly there. I suppose the argument the other direction is that there's a belief among some, I wouldn't say I'm a member of this group, there's a belief among some that there is no proven health benefit to masks. And they would say, well, it's different with, I guess bare feet, no shirts. I don't know exactly how people would say it's a completely different deal between those things. And so, I mean, I guess I would come out on the side that they are similar, but I know that's been used both ways to justify an argument on for or against masks.
Talking with Jack Mitchell of our sister station, KLIN. Of course, Lincoln has a mask mandate. Here in Omaha, there were attempts to get one going through the county health department, but after some legal threats, or at least an inquiry by the state attorney general, the health director here, Adi Poor, decided not to go forward with it. Now it looks like the Omaha City Council is going to try to do something on their end, but that's a more lengthy process. It's funny, Jack, because when Lincoln did theirs, or at least talked about theirs, I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was the similar threat of, well, the state's got to look into this, but Lincoln pressed forward with it anyway, whereas Omaha did not. What did you make of that? Because it's basically the same premise, two different cities, but one said, we're going ahead. The other here in Omaha said, well, we're going to have to find another way.
So I was very confused when I heard, because it sounded like the county board and Adi Poor wanted to go through with it. And then all of a sudden that press conference came up last week. They said, we're not doing it. The state is indicating that they don't think we should do it, and we're okay with that. And my first response was, well, what's different in Lincoln? Now, apparently, according to the folks in Lincoln, Lancaster County, is that their county health department, if I understand the reasoning here, is older and basically was grandfathered in to some autonomy that Douglas doesn't have. So it's like this specific government agency law, but still, nonetheless, I'm surprised that really dictated that much of a different response from the state between Lincoln and Omaha. I'd just be surprised if there was that clear difference in law, but maybe that was it. But I absolutely was. I don't know if it's a difference between having a mayor in Omaha who's going to be a little bit more willing to comport with what the governor wants than in Lincoln. Perhaps that plays into it too, just political forces, obviously two Republicans instead of a Republican and a Democrat. I'm not sure, but it was surprising. And as far as I've heard, the governor said at the beginning they were investigating legal options as it pertains to Lincoln, Lancaster County. The mayor told us on Friday she hadn't yet talked to the governor about this. And so as far as I know, it's going to go on in Lincoln without any legal challenges. I think it would have happened by now if the state was going to do it with how fast they kind of acted with Omaha.
Jack, you brought something up that I wanted to ask you was how much do you think the governor's hesitancy to either enforce or even encourage mask mandates has to do with Omaha's reluctance to push forward with that little bit of resistance from the attorney general?
I think his reluctance to do that predates that whole Omaha thing. I mean, you guys probably remember when the talk was about mandating masks in county buildings, and the governor said, if anybody does that, they're going to lose their CARES money because I oppose mask mandates for taxpayer services that much. And so Lincoln's actually exempted county buildings because of that, because they don't want to lose out on their CARES money. I think it's a for better or worse, it's a political standpoint that he's doing it for. He doesn't believe that the government should kind of be strong arming something like this, and it shouldn't be, as he describes it, a crime not to comport. He thinks that people should be asked to do the right thing voluntarily, similarly to what they did with the stay-at-home order, which wasn't really a stay-at-home order. That's just kind of the philosophy he's gone with. It's more of a less government tact. It's more of a political thing, and I think that's why he's done what he's done more than anything.
We haven't discussed it at length yet. We're going to here shortly, but no doubt most of our listeners had a chance to see over the weekend this group of Pac-12 players who have put out a list of demands that need to be met if they're going to play football this season. And one of the, obviously there's the health component, there's a social justice component, but then there's also a revenue component. And the athletes are essentially saying we want 50% of the revenues. Basically, like, we talk about it in baseball and basketball about, the salary cap needs to be, X amount of dollars that come in need to be dedicated to the players. The other half goes to the owners. Same circumstance here. Was that a mistake considering where we are in our current timeline of, being more focused on COVID to make this very bold demand of, hey, not only do we want this, and this, we want 50% revenues of whatever sport it is that we play, because without us, there is nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I think there, when I saw a lot of the demands, I thought, okay, well, you're smart to use your leverage, whatever people think. And I know there's a real hot button topic on whether it's appropriate or not for these students to do this, but regardless of that, take that away from it. And it's like any other labor situation, basically. If you've got leverage to get something you want, that's what we do in this system, right? That's what we do in any system. And so the question is, do they have enough leverage to get that kind of a real sea change when it comes to finances, or have they overplayed their hand? And what's the cost of overplaying their hand? Now, let's be honest. Anytime you're in a negotiation, and this looks kind of like a collective bargaining to some degree negotiation, you shoot the moon at the beginning, and you work your way down toward the middle, of course. And a smart negotiation starts outside. Starts with a high number or a high request on this. And so perhaps that's what they're doing here. Perhaps that's smart negotiation and realizing, okay, if we're going to actually talk about this, we're not going to get exactly what we want out of the front. And they won't. I mean, they're just not going to. The stuff about cutting coach and the commissioner's salary, that's going to be a long shot. They're going to have a difficult time with some of that. And you're asking for a lot right at the outset, and to try and figure that out in a matter of weeks is going to be difficult. But again, that said, I've talked to you guys about this before with college football and the discussion about going forward and just what an incredible impact it's got on these universities and the economy, and how much rests on these athletes for cities like Lincoln and for universities like Big Ten universities like Ohio State. We're really going to have a better picture. I think the public is going to have a better picture than they ever did about the just what the value is of these players that are playing. Some of which, sure, could be replaceable by someone else, but not all of them are. And I think we really will probably have it's going to be a different conversation than we've ever seen about what kind of compensation, and I don't know if compensation is just the word, but what collective rights should be afforded to these players if we're that dependent on them, because we're finally going to understand how dependent we are on them.
Jack, what's the best argument you've heard from people in opposition to players getting some form of compensation?
I guess it probably is simply that that there is compensation with a scholarship, and everything that goes along with that scholarship and all the perks that are afforded a college athlete, and that you're agreeing to it. I mean, it's a known quantity. That's what you're getting when you do that. But I think the hard thing for me on that one is it still seems like with what you get for that, which is significant, it seems like for some players that's such an imbalance about what the universities are getting in return for it. But that's probably the best one, that there is a benefit being proffered, and it's the scholarship, it's the tuition, it's the room and board, it's all of the perks of the food, perks of being an athlete, probably. But that's probably it for me.
This could take the conversation in a much different tact, so I won't follow up on that. We will, though, Ravi, later in the program, because I think that's a good question that you ask about what the good arguments are, and I still think there are some good arguments that are out there. Most of them aren't being used currently,
because most of the arguments you hear are bad in opposition.
A lot of them are,
and so I wanted to be fair and see what the best one out there is.
I think I've got a better one. And I don't want to go too far into the weeds here because we're running a little bit short on time, but I think basically you could say that I think that the opportunities for college athletes would be greatly diminished if we take this out to its ultimate conclusion. If by paying the athletes, I think by doing that, if you take it out to its ultimate conclusion, college sports will look nothing like it looks today. And the number of opportunities for people to get scholarships will be greatly diminished.
And I think there's something there too as well. I think there's something there too as well. But I think those are your best ones. But I just think we are really going to have the sort of imbalance of benefits illuminated for us this summer, especially if college football plays or this fall, especially in a way that it's never been before. Because I don't think I've totally understood it until I really think about this coming year. And you've got businesses in this city that are desperate for it to happen. I mean, desperate for this season to happen. It's crazy. I mean, my bosses are desperate for it to happen. And what's that depend on? Whether or not they're able to have these kids go ahead and play here, and whether they can do it safely. So it really paints the picture in a different way. And I just think it's going to impact. It won't completely change public perception, but it's going to push it in that direction more than it's ever been.
All right, we haven't been serious enough yet in this conversation, so I will end it with this. Northwestern was picked to finish 6th in the Big Ten West, and they still got a first-place vote.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yes,
some media
vote in the Cleveland.com poll, the unofficial official poll of the Big Ten Conference. They got a first-place vote, but yet they were 6th place in the division.
There are just some media members that can't quit them, that can't get the idea of that fairy tale out of their head, and just what a fun, lucky, great story it would be if the plucky Wildcats could come out of the Big Ten and boy, just have a dream season, and then we can do a BTN special on it. And it's a fantasy that some people just can't get rid of.
I'm not disappointed by your response whatsoever.
So are they both overrated and underrated at the same time, Jack?
Yeah, I think that would be fair to say. I that's interesting you say that. I still can't look at any of that stuff till I know there's going to be a season. I haven't even thought about position battles in Lincoln or anything. Like, I need to be assured they're a season, and then I'm going to do 3 months of thinking of college football over the course of 2 weeks.
You may not have 2 weeks. You might have 2 days.
Yeah. Is there not a schedule out today yet? What's going on? Is there not an announcement about practice?
There is no schedule.
There's no practice. There's no practice announcement.
Yes, August the 7th, this Friday, we were supposed to see the start of fall camp. I don't know what's going to happen.
Fall camp starts in a matter of hours. It's time to start moving the tackling sleds out there, or the blocking sleds out there, and the tackling dummies. We need to know, conference.
I think right now they're just having to dig because, I mean, there's been so much time that has passed. Some of those things have been buried under the ground. They have to move the dirt around from underneath them because they have been anchored in the ground for so long. I'm
really bummed you wanted to talk about serious stuff today. I've been watching so much NBA this weekend. I've watched more NBA regular season this weekend than I have in a decade. And here I am ready to come on with pro basketball takes. And you guys
really think I spent any time watching NBA this weekend?
Jack, what's your hottest pro basketball take right now?
My hottest pro basketball take? Let's see. Team to watch. How about this? The Bucks are not going to come out of the East.
I don't think that's that hot of a take because the supporting cast behind Giannis is kind of crap. But what about
Kyle Korver on line 2?
What about listen? Kyle Korver's had a terrific run, and now he's your age, so
not that old. He's not that old.
What about how are you feeling about the Raptors minus Kawhi as defending their title?
So they've been on in the afternoons mainly, and so I have not seen as much of them. I do need to watch a full
time again.
I know Siakam from playing 2K with my son can be a good player. Yeah. So I still have mainly 2K knowledge, but I'm adding to it by actually watching games. We're gonna watch the Lakers and the Jazz tonight, and I'm excited about that. And I'm ready to go. And I'm fascinated with the virtual fans on the side. That's the one thing is I'm incredibly fascinated with the virtual fan.
Has the video game updated so that all of the social justice things are on the backs of all the uniforms on the video game too?
So I've been playing this game with my son, and I keep telling him, I was like, set it up so we can play in the bubble. And you can't. They don't have a bubble feature on 2K20. And he said it'll be in next year's version. And I said, well, what good is that? That's next season. I want to play in the stinking bubble like my favorite players are, and it's not available. And yes,
I
will
hope
not
you
have
never see another bubble again. I don't know why you want to relive it.
No, that's the new normal. I want to play like they're playing now.
Oh,
I'm tired of seeing all these fans in the stands on the video game. I want an empty, weird stadium with video boards all over and socially distanced chairs like the real thing.
Hey, really, Jokic isn't playing with a social justice message on his uniform?
I noticed that the other day.
Neither was James Harden. Neither was Harden last night. And Jimmy Butler didn't want to have anything on his jersey, and they wouldn't let him do that. So you had to put one that just said Butler on. Look at this NBA stuff I know. Look at I've turned into a regular David Aldridge.
I bet you don't even know that our two teams are playing the next 4 nights, do you?
I want no part of that, John. I want zero part of that.
Why? You'll win at least 2 of the games.
It's going to be so bad. And then Twitter is going to be so bad.
I hope it's bad.
It's going to be so bad. And then all of you, and I say you people, I mean you Cubs fans, are so annoying on Twitter. I dread the next 4 days. It's going to be horrendous.
What are you talking about?
Oh, and the W flags, and our relievers suck, but you're actually up by 7.
At least our W's original. We didn't get some old-timey baseball guy to march out there and stick a W on the scoreboard. Bunch of losers. You stole our bit.
Whatever. I don't want to go through this. You know what, John? I'm pretty much done with the baseball season. I've moved on to the NBA and maybe the NHL.
Bandwagon, Jack.
Typical of Royals hockey. Why don't we just contract the Royals at this point? Their fans give up so fast.
Listen, they're almost they lose 3 out of 4 this week, which they will. They'll be mathematically eliminated. That was a fun 10-day season.
Anyway, you're fine.
Again, why every season starts the same? It's like Groundhog Day with them. And then I start doing the math in my head, like, okay, if they go 1-2 in this series, I'll still care. But if they go worse than that, I'm done. I
mean, the management of the Royals stopped caring before the season started. Why shouldn't
the management of the Royals? They're owned by Patrick Mahomes.
Big mistake.
He cares. He won a Super Bowl.
It's ever since he bought him, they're like 2-8.
They've been terrible.
Yep. Tried to warn you guys.
Stibbs is so happy.
It's the Madden curse. The Royals are so bad.
If he could ruin the other franchise he's a part of that I care about more, I'd appreciate that. But I'm fine with him ruining the Royals too.
Stibbs, I was watching hockey. I was watching the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricane this morning. I have no why.
It was a good game.
Can you imagine if you could go back to yourself in February and be like, hey, in August, you're going to go through a lot of stuff the next few months, but it's going to end up in August on a Monday watching NHL and NBA playoffs during your lunch hour on a regular Monday. That's all I'm going to be able to tell you about the future. Enjoy.
I don't hate it. Except we have to have basketball on the big TV in here because the small one doesn't have.
It's blacked out now. Yeah,
the Nuggets game's blacked out, so you can move.
Give me that big remote. You can, hockey time, baby.
You can move hockey to the big TV now.
Hockey time.
I can't even get the remote to you because we got this freaking plexiglass in front of us. Unbelievable. All right. Well, you ended up losing your game, I assume, right?
Oh yeah, I lost. Johnny, how much did I lose by?
I assume.
I lost by like 30. He said.
I'm not surprised at all. All right. Well,
nobody cares.
Enjoy your NBA, and I hope you are miserable this week. I hope the Cubs can take all 4, but you know what's going to happen. It's going to be.
I will be miserable.
Split. It's going to be a 2-2 split at least.
You guys are the worst. Not the worst because you
Our
do this.
relievers are bad, but we have the best record in baseball.
You'll sweep them and you'll complain about how bad you are. So annoying. Hey, learn. I'll show you what being bad is about. Welcome.
I know it's written right there on your hat.
You
walked right into that one. All right, we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, Jack.
There he is, Jack Mitchell of our sister station KLIN. By the way, he's wearing the MAGA Herbie hat. That's MAGA Herbie basketball hat, which is what I was throwing my other bus for. Robbie, I knew you'd appreciate.
Yeah, I always appreciate a good dig.
There it is one more time.
A good dig at Nebraska basketball.
There it is, the symbol of excellence.
Wow,
right there.
All right, bye, Jack.
MAGA Herbie basketball.
Listen, Jack and I got through that entire interview without fighting about the state's basketball teams. That's growth.
Good. That's
growth for us.
That's progress.
Yeah.
I see my Jets gave up 2 goals, and so now we're tied at 2 going into the third period.
Oh, man, there's 2 hockey games on now?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, we lost our
Oh,
NBA because of the
geez.
stupid Nuggets blackout. How do you black out the Nuggets?
That's what Gary was just saying. That's
I
why there's no
know.
Nuggets fans. You can't watch them, which is dumb.
That is so stupid.
I got plenty of nuggets right here in
Why
studio.
would they? There's
I,
how many you got left?
Well, we've been on the air for like a half hour with Jack, so like 18. Can't really eat during the interview.
all right, we can tackle the conversation about where the good argument is in not compensating the players, and more on what the list of demands were coming up. Also, Steve Sipple will join us at 3:45. We'll see if Ravi will be through his nuggets by then.
I'll see what I can do.
I would save a few nuggets for Sip because you might need some energy for that.
Yeah, he can be spicy.
I'm just saying. Back after this on The Zone.